Welcome everyone to the Spooky Screen, where five best friends review horror movies and now television shows. For the next several weeks, again, we'll be reviewing Showtime Network's breakout hit, Yellowjackets. For those that don't know, Yellowjackets is a show about a group of high school girls who have survived out in the Canadian wilderness after their airplane crashes. And meanwhile, their adult counterparts grapple with the aftermath of that traumatic and mysterious ordeal 25 years later. For those who are joining us again throughout the series, this is the review for Yellowjackets episode 4, entitled, I have the title right here, Bear Down. And for those who are just listening for the first time, we recommend that you go back to episode 1 review, which is titled Pilot, and start there. We will be spoiling the episode for everyone who is listening, going in depth into the episode. So just listener beware. So with that being said, I'm going to do a quick episode 4 spoiler synopsis, and then we can jump into our gimmick and then go from there. So for episode 4, we ended episode 3 of Yellowjackets with a dead man in his rocking chair with a rifle beside him in the mysterious cabin that the girls have located in the Canadian wilderness. The girls have made camp in this cabin, and they have quickly buried that dead man, and now his gun is up for grabs. Natalie goes toe-to-toe with Travis and wins control of the weapon by knocking off 4 cans in a row. And they set off on a hunt together to go ahead and catch some food for the rest of the group. Meanwhile, they're hunting. Natalie helps Travis exhume his father's corpse, essentially, and reclaim a ring on his finger. And Travis brings that back to his younger brother, Javi, to kind of soothe the grief that his younger brother is feeling. And on their way back to camp, they end up killing a deer for the entire group, which they quickly dismember, cook, and eat. In the future timeline, 25 years later, we focus on older Natalie. We learn about her trauma as a child. She was involved in an accident that caused her father to shoot himself in the head with a shotgun. Here we find out she gets dinner with Kevin, who's one of her romantic teenage romantic interests, and basically manipulates him into looking into Travis's suicide from the previous episode. Amongst the 3 other women, Misty learns how to talk to people who are dealing with grief through an internet article. Shauna continues to deepen her extramarital relationship with Adam. And then Thaisa, at a high-profile political fundraiser, rebuffs a high-potential donor when she asks her to reveal what really happened out in the Canadian wilderness. So that is episode 4 in a nutshell. Before we move on to the questions, the likes and dislikes, the gimmick for this episode is that I asked everyone to bring back with them their one object that they would bring out to the Canadian wilderness, the episode 1 gimmick. So everyone just quickly go in a circle. Remind us, what object did you pick to bring with you out to the Canadian wilderness, Noah?
I brought a toque, which is Canadian for a beanie.
There you go. Nick, what about you?
First off, it's not what I would bring to the Canadian wilderness. It was what I could salvage after trying to be on an airplane.
What is it, Nick? What is it?
It's an extension cord that I think works great to make traps, to hurt people.
He brought an extension cord on the plane.
Yeah.
You could plug it into a maple tree.
You all seem to think that I want to use it to actually use it for its intended use of trying to get electricity in the wild.
Nick's gonna strangle you.
Yeah.
I brought my ski snow goggles because
Johnny.
you never know when you need them, even if you're flying to a sports competition.
Yeah.
And are we doing our new thing or no?
No, not yet. We're just going to remind everyone what object we brought for week 1. And then David, what about you?
Oh my God. His name is not David, it's Paperman.
Paperman, what about you?
My new name in the new world. It's Paperman.
David's taking this way too seriously.
David's gone full cannibal.
Also, David, I can't hear you with that paper mouth.
David's gone full
Yes,
Dawkins.
you can.
Yes, you can. Okay.
You can hear the nature.
I feel like there was no consent in that response.
I brought my sketchbook.
All right, cool. Thank you. And I brought a matchbook, which I've hidden in my headband here because
Oh,
I
so you
That
got
has
two
somehow-
things. You brought two things. You brought a headband and matchbook. Interesting. A little sneaky.
I wanted to buy a big thing of matches and make like a crown for myself, but
That
I
actually
just
would be
didn't
cool.
have the time
You
to
could like
do that.
hot glue matches in the ground.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you light them all on fire.
That's what I was
And then
worried
he
about.
uses
On the
all his
last
matches.
episode.
Meanwhile, the extension cord stays forever.
That's what I was worried about.
Yeah.
You have finite
Oh.
resources. This is forever.
I
You
can't
could make
wait.
that
I can't
extension
wait.
cord into a turban.
I can't wait to see what Nick's second item is.
Oh, just you.
All right.
I brought a spork.
It has a lot of utility.
Anyways, good segue. Our gimmick for this week, seeing that the girls have found a rifle in the cabin, I thought it was now appropriate for us participants in this podcast to arm ourselves with a weapon that we have found in our own proverbial cabin. So I asked the group to bring an object to this podcast that would represent something that they would find in a long abandoned cabin. So David, why don't you start us off with your weapon of choice? What did you find in your cabin?
All right, so I was assuming, or in my mind, I was playing that like the cabin had already been ransacked by people.
I like
We're
it.
just,
Why?
We're just kind of finding it. Like, I don't know. So I found a pair of scissors that could maybe be used to cut hide or fabric or something like that. So it's
Or
a pair of
people's
faces.
scissors, and they're like these are like
Yeah, those are sharp.
industrial scissors.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, it's got
you
like
could
a
cut
handle.
bones.
It's like a little like heavy.
You just
I got
whack
a-
someone.
I got
Uh-huh.
the stab. I got the smash.
Might
I got
mildly concuss them.
yeah,
You could do crafts.
the crafts.
All right. Thank you, David. Johnny, show us your weapon. What did you find in your cabin?
So I found a very special item.
Underwear with holes.
Ooh.
Oh,
K-bar.
man.
K-bar, yeah, there you
Oh,
go.
yeah, we're
Look at
ready.
that.
We're gonna
Damn.
get it, boys.
Is that the one that you
Yes.
Johnny's got a
You-
big knife, by the way, for
I have
people
a
that are
very
listening.
large
Big
K-bar
Bowie knife, yeah.
military knife. I feel like
Hide
it,
that
you
under
know.
the seat of your car.
Look, it has little things so if you get in a knife fight, it protects your fingers, right?
Nice,
So that's
yeah.
great because
I
you
like
never
that.
know. You get a knife fight, it can also go really deep. You know, really,
What about
really inside?
what about
the
a
bear.
scissor fight? You know, if you and David got
See,
into
I
a
can
fight.
See,
Stab
that's
him,
the
Johnny,
sheath,
and
and
then I
then
open it
see,
up.
David doesn't realize I have the bottom. I pop him right on the nose, and then just little cuts.
You know,
And then I'm gonna take my scissors apart, so now I'm dual wielding.
Oh well, that actually. But see, look, David, look, defense on both sides.
David,
So.
I'm
You
going to
like
say
that?
this right now. David, you didn't think this out as paper man.
Easy, paper man.
I'm just saying.
Yeah,
It should have been-
Steven's gonna set you on fire. I'm gonna slice you up.
It should have been a rock.
All right, I really want to see Nick's.
Yeah, Nick, why
Yeah,
don't you show us
please.
what you brought from your cabin?
From my cabin,
A gun.
I found, and I've had this actually for a really long time because I found it in an abandoned house. That was
Oh,
next
so it's
door
a
to me
real.
growing up.
It's like a real abandoned cabin.
So I bought my hatchet.
Oh,
Wow, that's
very
intense.
nice.
wow.
This is a legit hatchet,
I'm
everyone
frightened.
who's listening.
It's
Oh,
so old.
God, I just
If
thought of
you-
a better one.
If you read the book Hatchet, it looks exactly like that hatchet.
The Hatchet Gang.
Guys,
And Nick found it in an actual abandoned cabin, so he
Amazing.
went above and beyond everyone else.
He actually
I-
It was an
robbed
abandoned
mine.
house, but close enough.
Can I switch mine?
No.
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 You
gotta-
chose
you gotta-
fruit. You stick with fruit.
When I moved into this house, there was an old rusty machete in the garage.
Oh my god! Why wouldn't you
That
pick
would
that?
I forgot about it. It's like out of sight, out of mind. You don't think about your machete in your garage.
I wish I had a machete. Okay, Noah, why don't you show
All
us
right,
your
I'm gonna
weapon?
go with mine. I went super practical, and some people call it the flat hatchet of the world of the tool chest. It's a hammer.
Nice.
Wow, that's
I
right
must
up
grab
your
a
alley
hammer.
number
It's
four.
flat
Instead of,
hatchet.
and
Instead of
rusty.
Instead of killing them in a humane way, you have to really let them feel it.
Yeah, and it's rusty, so if I actually broke skin, you'd probably get an infection and die
Tetanus.
eventually.
Get tetanus.
Eventually.
I regret letting Noah go before me because I have also brought.
Oh
Hammer.
yeah,
Oh,
Hammer
God.
Bros.
Hammer Gang.
Bros.
Hammer Wars.
We've already made our own separate group. We are the Hammers. If you don't have a hammer, you're not allowed to join the group.
For the Hammer Boys.
We
That's right.
tenderize the meat. We tenderize it good.
I
It's
was
nice
gonna
and
say,
juicy.
Nick, if you tie that thing, to that,
I'm trying.
You could whip that thing around and just chop heads off.
I
I mean,
I
none
should-
of
Glowing blade.
the show hasn't gotten too violent yet, so I don't know why we're all getting so murdery. But I know it's coming.
No, it's just the fact that Natalie this episode
forest.
has secured the gun for herself. So so thank you everyone for sharing your weapons that you found in your own cabins.
Do I have to hold my knife up like this the whole time?
No,
Right,
don't.
just
I just wanted to make it clear that Steven's hammer is way smaller than mine. So
Yeah,
And it's so
and it's
shiny.
girlier because it has orange in it.
yeah, mine looks like
Yeah, but
you'd find it in a cabin.
Yeah,
Noah's looks like it's had a life. It's lived.
Steven has the
Steven's is
Home
all
Depot
preppy.
one. Noah's his name brand. So.
Yeah, mine has beaten a few heads in probably.
All right. So with that, with the gimmick
Secure.
behind us, we're gonna move to likes and dislikes. So everyone has a quick 2 minutes each to give out a well thought out reason why you liked or disliked this episode. Again, the rules here are be specific instead of general, and try to boil down your reason for dislike or liking this episode to the ultimate why. So, Noah, why don't we go with you first this time?
Yeah, I'll go first. Sticking with my gauge from last week, this episode was passable. A lot of things happened to it. A lot of things happened in it, but nothing particularly engaging happened in it. You know, I know I don't want to make the comparison to Lost, but I'm going to make the comparison to Lost. It reminded me a lot of a Lost episode where they kind of something happens on the island that they have to figure out and do, like the gun, and then we do flashbacks of someone's life, right?
Mm.
This was very much an episode like that, where they found the gun, they're tinkering around with it, they have to decide who's going to hunt with it, which is fine, and then we have flashbacks of Natalie's life, which is fine. But it was just kind of like a B or C level episode of Lost, where it was just wasn't interesting enough for me to really go, I liked it.
Yeah.
So I'm saying I didn't like it.
Okay. Sounds like filler.
Yeah, it was definitely filler. It's nice to know about these characters and their background, but it's not necessarily anything that is super interesting. Like, I didn't need it. It's just nice.
Okay. Johnny, what about you?
I'm in it. I'm in it for the ride right now, and I feel like I said from the beginning, I know there's something coming, and I'm trying to just be patient. So, I thought similar to Noah, it feels mundane sometimes. It's interesting overall. They have a lot of moving parts, so it's like you don't have to get bored. And it's kind of fun to predict the little bumps along the way that you can see. Like there's going to be a resolution in that episode about the politician and that party, and there's going to be something that Shauna does with her new love, or and there's these little things are coming, and it's that's what's getting you by. But I think they're laying seeds in these episodes that I'm trying to figure out that tie into a larger narrative, and that's I'm just braced for that. I'm waiting for it because I think it'll make more sense once I know what that is. I think it's coming, and I think it's gonna give a lot of the stuff context. But right now, I feel like without knowing what it is, it's I'll call it B- for me.
Okay.
But I'm excited because I have hope and faith that it is part of a larger A+ plot.
Okay. Thanks, Johnny. David, Paperman, why don't we go to you? Give us your like or dislike.
Thank you, Fire Maker.
I like that.
I'm just looking at myself in the camera. I'm like,
he's totally in love with himself.
It's just like
I like good.
David's wearing a paper mask, if anyone's wondering,
on his head.
on his face.
David, has anyone ever told you you're just two-dimensional? Ding, dad jokes.
um,
Get off the stage, old
no,
Give him a paper cut, paper
floundering.
man.
Okay, let
All
him
right,
talk.
David's not talking, so
I think ultimately you don't even know if I'm talking or not. I could be. This could be Nick's
David,
voice.
no joke.
I can hear you talk though.
Your voice on the podcast is going to be really hard to hear.
Yeah, yeah. That just for when you're talking. Yeah.
That's when I took my mask.
All right. Ultimately, like kind of Noah brought up, this is just kind of a connecting sinew. This is like not a fabulous episode. I really wanted to like it, but it feels like the writers just have to keep reminding you who's in the show. Like, I feel like each episode doesn't have to be a continuation of the exact storylines we just saw. Like, I wish if they just focused on Natalie and Travis for the backstory, and like we got 50% of the episode there, and then Thaisa, and like the other stuff like with Nat and Misty and Shauna and Adam, if that was just kind of looming in the background and we were just kind of thinking about it and remembering it, it just feels like it felt like, okay, last episode this happened and now this is happening now and now this is happening now. I just wish the focus was it was everywhere, and I wish that there was some trust in us as the viewers that we are can perceive what's going on in the background and we are following along with the story.
So David
And
wants Lost.
no, I want focus. I want I want
Lost.
just a few characters in one episode. Like by now, it's almost mid season. The writers and directors should trust us as viewers that we know kind of the journeys that like they can leave a storyline and pick it up another
David, it's
episode.
part of a narrative. It's a crescendo. You
It's
have to
just
crescendo all of them at once so that when the reveal happens, they all resolve. Because if you do each one as a crescendo and resolve each separately, it's not part of the effect. It's every single one has to be boiling
I think
together.
my hope is this is kind of the mid-season lull right before this, like in HBO shows, like when you're watching Game of Thrones, there's like those lull episodes, and then like mid-season then it just keeps like ramping up higher and higher and higher
And then
right
the
to
dragons
like
show up. So
yeah, to the dragons or aliens show up. That's my hope. That's my hope for this episode, that this is like episode 5 is going to just like punch me right in the face.
Hmm.
I
You
hope
know?
I hope it does that too. Nick, we're gonna move on to you. Can you tell us if you've liked or disliked this episode?
First, I want to ask how many episodes are in this season? Is it 8,
There are 10. Yeah.
10? Okay. Um, so how I answer is also my feelings. I think for the series, where I'm
Wait,
gonna
wait,
say,
wait.
well, no,
David,
just
you're
listen.
gonna
David,
you're gonna have to mute yourself, David.
you
You're
can
cutting
hear
the paper.
ear
It's too loud.
cutting. Get out of here.
Okay, Nick, you can.
No, don't put your
Don't-
camera back on.
I can still hear you cut it.
All right, Nick, you can go.
That was great.
I'm gonna say that I didn't like this episode. To me, it's indicative of a problem of the series that there's only 10 episodes of the season, and this show doesn't have a lot of time and opportunity to play filler. This episode, I want to say, like I think it was episode 1, felt like a lot of fluff, felt kind of unnecessary. And part of me is really beginning to think that this show would be much better if it just really cut out, like, Shauna is not a good main character. I don't care about extramarital affairs. I care about these girls on the island trying to survive. I can care, I can give so much care to the idea of Natalie and Misty, because they're years later, they're trying to solve a mystery because their past is coming back to haunt them. Thaisa feels a little out of place, but is a respectable B plot. But Shauna is that storyline is so needlessly stupid and boring and so unnecessary. And I feel like if that was cut out, I would enjoy this show a little more, because they focus really hard on her and it just takes me out of the whole episode and just makes me not care anymore.
Okay. All right, some big issues with Shauna's storyline. It seems like. Okay, thank you, Nick, for sharing. We're going to move on to the questions about the episode, and I think that let's just dive right in. I think one of the main criticisms about episode 3, last week's review, was that some of you found the survival timeline, which is teenage girls out in the Canadian wilderness, that to be much, much more compelling than their older counterparts, their adult counterparts living out their lives 25 years later. Do you feel like this episode has exacerbated that uh, the dislike of one timeline over the other, or has kind of closed the gap? Nick, do you want? Oh, actually, no, you go. Yeah.
I'll go. Um, I'm going to triple down on my criticism that the future timeline of their older counterparts is just so not interesting. And
Mm.
at this point, it kind of feels like it's pulling the show down. And I'm really starting to feel that in episode 4. Is it 4? Yeah, 4.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, and I agree with Nick that Shauna's storyline in particular is starting to drag because it feels like it's going nowhere. And at the same time, I kind of see where it's going, where she's going to snap or something. And it's completely uninteresting to me. And I wish this series was shorter. And I wish it was just the survival. And then we could fit more of the interesting parts into it and make it work a little better. Because at this point, I don't see the future timeline redeeming itself for me unless
Mhm.
something really, really, really interesting happens. And I
Got it.
don't see how they can pull that out of the hat.
Okay.
I just don't see it.
Thanks, Noah. Okay, Dave. Yeah. Or
Yeah.
Paperman. Sorry.
Thank you.
I like your changes. You've
It's
leveled
not
up,
as
I
ex-
see.
it's not as like aesthetically pleasing, but if you can hear
Nope,
me
it's
clear.
good. It's better.
All right. My issue with the future timeline is I don't know. I guess they are secretive because they distrust each other, right?
Hmm.
It's
They still don't know who's blackmailing them.
it's it's just frustrating. It's well,
It's just not fair.
it's just not fair.
It's okay. Let it all out,
No,
David.
I'm just
David,
I'm
He
David,
doesn't
trying
want to be
to.
called a misogynist, Steven.
That's right. I'm
All right,
trying
we're
to
gonna cut that
word-
part out because it's not making it into episode 3.
I'm
I
trying to
keep telling
word
you guys
my,
this.
I'm trying to word myself very clearly, but I know I'm like just causing dead air. Noah, you kind of brought it up. The mystery of the future timeline is just not intriguing enough. Like I feel like the mystery that they're trying to allude to in the future timeline, it's all developed in the past, but we don't know what happened in the past, so we're not really intrigued
But
yet.
David, don't you think that the constant references to what happened in the woods and that being even a point that all of them have not caved on yet?
I
There's a
will.
crescendo on both scales building to something this shared knowledge that we're about to find
Well,
out. That's
Yeah, no,
probably
I
we
that's
know
the
that they
kickstart
eat
of the show.
people. We know
I
that they eat people because they showed that in the first
But we
episode.
don't
well,
know why, and that's
well,
important.
well,
And I think
I agree
the
with you,
crescendo
Johnny.
is important, and I think
Just
that's
let
when
him
the show
talk.
starts.
Let David talk.
I agree with you, Johnny, because my thought in the one interesting aspect of the two timelines that I did like, or the two storylines that I liked in this episode, Natalie and Travis, because that was like character development and made you feel something for like the past. But Thaisa, when she's talking to the donor, and she's like, why do you need to know? I thought it was a really interesting character development moment as for the whole group. Like if you met somebody who went through a traumatic experience, any experience, war, abuse, there's thousands. You wouldn't just so like you wouldn't push yourself onto them like, well, what really happened? What did you really go through? And I do think it's this. I do think that line, that constant stressor is probably an important stressor that's maybe going to bring those adults back. You know,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know.
Nick, Johnny, do you have any thoughts?
I kind of, I guess I said it a little before, but just to be more clear, I am okay with the dual lines.
Mm-hmm.
As I said before, I'm still okay with it because I do believe that I can see, I can project how it comes together. I don't know why or how, but I can see them converging together, and I'm hopeful. And
There are seeds being planted.
I am okay with it because I can tell that each one of these things is a build up that is a crescendo in of its own right, and there's probably a reveal of meaning with the past to these future events, and I think it'll tie nicely with the bow at some point. That's my
Okay.
personal
So you're
opinion.
holding out hope, essentially. Yeah.
But I will
All right.
say
Nick, what?
it is stressful, and I want to binge it, and you won't let me. So
Yeah.
I get
Well,
why. It's like
yeah.
waiting for
Nick,
it's waiting for that first kiss.
waiting for
It's like
Christmas morning.
anticipation.
Yeah. Yeah. The sexual tension.
Oh, whoa, 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 whoa.
Nick,
And then you realize they
Whoa,
didn't
whoa,
brush their
whoa,
teeth, and
whoa.
then the kiss is kind of stinky, and you're like, ew.
that was episode 4 for you, basically, dude.
The morning breath.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nick, any thoughts on your end?
I mean, I'm just gonna add on to what I already said. That my belief is I want to be okay with the future timeline. I do think it's dragging the show down right now, but I especially think that reasoning is Shauna's storyline because that seems to take a bit more prominence over the other two, and it's just the most cliche. It doesn't really fit with the story because it's just so like it's an extramarital affair and a story about girls who survived on an island. And for Thaisa, like I said, like she seems to be haunted by the magic from that island. If there
Mm-hmm.
seems to be some kind of magic or witchcraft, so at least that still ties in. People are pressuring her, like, "What did you do?" So it still ties in. Shauna's just like, "Yeah, I'm just cheating on my husband, and that's all it is." Like,
Right.
who cares? Like, I feel because that takes prominence, I feel like it really just drags the rest of what the future timeline could be. Because I would be much happier if it focused more on Natalie and Misty trying to do their investigation and their relationship now, and they happen to come across more characters. Like they can come across Shauna and they can come across Thaisa. Like when the B and the A plot finally come together, but
Mm-hmm.
Shauna just needs to be a background character, or at least be a main character in the past, and not bother with the future. And then we find out later
I think
because it drags
strictly
it down.
speaking from an episode 1 to 4 standpoint, Shauna's character, the way that they've built her up, and I'm just speaking as if I've only watched those 4 episodes, so don't take anything into context, is that they seem to be positioning her as a character that has to be kind of
Hmm.
gently coaxed out of her shell, right?
Hmm.
Shauna in pilot episode was kind of very subservient to a Jackie, and then we saw glimmers of her rebellion against Jackie when she voted to go down to the lake, and it seems like there's a slow burn happening in her, and um, it just happened. It basically, I think there is some sort of evolution happening, but at a more gradual rate, I think.
Can
And
I
I
say
will,
something?
yeah, go ahead.
Basically, I'm right.
No. I don't think you or Johnny or anyone else here or even the show is going to be able to convince me that the future timeline without it, the show would have been not better. Like the future timeline feels like a spoiler at this point, and it's just not good enough to keep it in there.
Got it.
Like to me, it'd be more interesting to wonder if Natalie's going to die, wonder if Shauna's going to die. See Shauna's character change throughout the season in the past. Whereas in the future, it just feels like, oh, okay, she's going to go through the same thing she went through in the past. Like,
I,
I don't think it's going to be, it's got some major heavy lifting for me to be able to finally
Well,
say, oh, it's worth it.
yeah, Nick, why don't you go? What did you want to say?
I just want to say, Noah, while I do agree with you, because I personally thought that it would have been better if the show was just one timeline for 1 or 2 seasons and then the future for the other seasons. Once I saw it kept jumping back and forth, I knew that that's when you kind of have to know that there's going to be a juxtaposition for the story, in the sense that we're not going to get to the root cause. Like this seems like, because it's only 10 episodes and it feels like we're not getting much in it. So to me, this already showed me like, okay, there's going to be more than one season for this, because they're going to have to go deep into the explanation for their past and their future, for them to come together at a crescendo for the past and the future. Like boom, whatever the crisis, like I guess the crisis of the girls finally falling apart, and the crisis of them being found out. Like, it gives you those double crescendo to really knock you off your feet. I'm not saying it's a
Okay.
great idea, but you get, that's how you have to picture it when you see that they just keep jumping between the two.
Okay. Thank you, Nick. Johnny, what did you want to say?
Quickly, Noah, don't you think though that the knowledge that something happens without knowing what is interesting? You don't
No,
find
because
that
I already know
like
something
you're gonna
happens.
die on
No, I hate that.
the Halloween of next, but you don't know how. Like that's just the route they chose to deliver that. But it's also, we don't know what happens in the woods. And this show is all about red herrings. They showed you this cannibalistic thing, but we don't really know what's going on. And I find it interesting. I want to know what happens. I want to know what we think.
I'd
I think what we
rather
think
be
is not anywhere
surprised.
near it.
I'd rather be surprised than know that, like, how things ended up after. Like, I don't want to read the epilogue and then go back to the beginning of the book. I'd rather read the book and then see the epilogue. It's just
You want the
not
reveal with
interesting
the
to me to
character.
know what happened to everyone and then go back and see how it all happened. Like, I don't like that. That's not how my
You
brain
would
works.
prefer. So there's the mystery camp, those who would stick to the one timeline, the teenage girls, and then there are those who are, I guess, Johnny, you tell me if this sounds right, expand the world camp, where
Mm-hmm.
the future timeline expands the world in which these girls have survived, come out of that ordeal, and is like slowly starting to, build out this new world 25 years later that these women occupy.
Yeah, I do think, though, I will say that I think the show's focus is on the later timeline.
Yeah.
I think in my opinion, I think it is
It
a
is.
dual crescendo, and I think the past is really a build up for a larger new timeline reveal that really sets the show in motion. And I really don't think that it's about the survival. I think the survival is a prologue. So
But
Yeah.
what's the
that's
problem?
interspersed.
I get it, but the problem for me is that I don't find anything in the future timeline interesting enough to
But then
keep
you're not
watching.
gonna like the show, Noah.
I
They
guess
don't- they don't
this
push
might
the
be
show-
my ultimate review when we hit season 10. I'll
really-
go back. I'll reference back to this episode
Season 10.
episode 10 when
I think
this
you're
is the
gonna be
moment
surprised,
I
Noah.
realized that I
Noah's
did.
come back from the future,
I
where
had
he
no
sees the
idea.
show's taking over the airwaves, 10 seasons in a movie.
Let him talk.
I've Scout's honor. I've not watched the series, but I have faith that this is gonna blow your mind, Noah.
Wow, Johnny, you
I think
All right.
it's gonna blow.
we
it.
switched spots since the first episode. It's quite
I think
weird.
Prophetic words.
Noah's mind is just gonna poof.
Okay.
All right. So
And he's gonna
Johnny's gonna
love it.
say Noah's mine.
I hope this ages well.
Gonna go.
I mean, what's the most interesting thing that's happening in the future timeline?
Travis is dying.
But
Dying? He died.
that was like I feel like that was just like
I
So,
mean, yeah,
okay.
because we had no connection to him. That was the
Yeah.
big problem.
that was one of the issues. Yes, I
I
think
think it's fine.
I will say this.
I'd say everything that goes on with Sandy
I
is the
rewatched-
most interesting.
I rewatched this episode and I agree with the filler comments. And I did struggle to come up with questions for this one because you couldn't really latch onto something that would point towards the next 6 episodes. So I will give you guys that, which is why I haven't called any of you misogynists today. This
Yeah.
episode. But I do like I appreciate you, Johnny, for holding out hope. I think.
I think we got it, guys. I think we're gonna do it.
I feel like Johnny's watched it all. He's not.
I
telling
have
us.
not. I'm just. If
You're
I'm gonna,
being oddly hopeful.
I'm gonna-
if
it's
I'm
very
gonna
out
spend-
of character for you.
I'm going to text your wife.
no, I haven't. She'll attest to it. I think that when I
He's
take
right
this
ahead.
this long to watch it, and I know that I can't rush ahead, I just have to have hope. Otherwise, I'll be pissed. I'm
Yeah.
choosing
We'll
positivity.
get ready
here,
to
guys.
be pit.
Johnny's found his like inner like Nirvana.
Yeah,
TV
what is
Nirvana.
going
I don't know what's
on?
going on. Yeah.
It's the
I guess
glasses,
I
bro.
guess it's like
Put
he's
these
less
on, it
cynical.
blocks out all the blue light.
Less cynical when we talk about TV shows compared to horror
These are
movies.
real blue light glasses, guys. I don't see any blue.
Steven, what can you just give us like a thought on our thoughts, like as in
Yeah, like
are you
reflect on our
laughing
refractions.
are you reflect on our reflections? Are
I'm
you
la-
laughing at us internally?
I'm laughing because I understand that I was able to watch the episodes at a much more rapid clip.
Yeah,
Oh,
you.
okay.
Yeah. I hope the listeners know that
Complete-
Steven's being a complete utter jerk and making us wait weekly to watch a series that came out already.
Well, listen, if you guys want to get together and record another episode this week, I'm happy to let you watch the episodes a lot quicker.
Oh my god!
And I did propose a solution for you guys to be able to watch the episodes a lot quicker, but you guys wanted to stay
There's
honest, which I
no
respect.
way I would have been able to do this episode and like know
Yeah.
what was happening and like
Yeah.
say
That's
that I
true.
didn't like it.
That's true.
It's too
yeah.
empty. It's too
Yeah.
empty. You would have forgotten it by the next one.
Yeah. Well, anyways, why don't we do this? Like, let's close it out so you guys can quickly watch the next episode before you guys go to sleep.
Oh, God. I have to go back to work for the first time in months tomorrow.
Are we
In
gonna
the
Are we
city,
gonna revisit
guys.
our theories?
Oh, that's right. Sorry, we're
I
not
don't
going
want
to jump to
David.
So theories.
No one has changed their position.
No one has any new
So let's
theories,
just do it
right?
fast.
I have a theory.
All right, Dave, give us your theory.
Okay.
We'll write it down.
I think Adam and the journalist that Thais has hired, or whatever she is, I think they know each other. Or
Mhm.
Adam is some sort of like super fan obsessed.
Who's Adam?
Like the
Adam's
guy
the
who's-
person
guy
who's
who's
sleeping with Shauna.
He's definitely he definitely has like an obsession with these women.
Mm.
Yeah, he's a little malicious somewhere.
I've got a theory
Okay. Go
for
for it.
Adam. It's my only theory of the week, and I was gonna say it last week, but I forgot. My theory is that Adam is Travis's brother, who they thought died in the wilderness.
Oh, Javi?
Javi. Yeah.
Right.
Wait, he didn't run away, did he?
No, I think we find out later that he died, but then it's revealed that he didn't die and he's actually Adam.
Got it.
He's been living with Lottie the whole time.
Interesting.
Nick, Johnny, do you have any before we move to reviews?
Yeah, I was gonna say
scores?
that I don't know who I don't know who to say Adam is, but I have a feeling that Adam, like, that's not his real name. He's like, it's an alias. He's undercover for whatever reason. Doesn't have to necessarily be with the police, but he's obviously faking who he is, and he's working with something to infiltrate what these girls know for somebody.
Okay. Does anyone have anything to say about the airplane that they found, or the eye symbol? Not the eye symbol. The
It
The
gave me
Deathly
some-
Hallows.
it
Give me
gave me
major
some-
Lost vibes.
That's what I was gonna say. Dang it, Noah.
yeah.
Definitely lost vibes, and not in a good way.
Like
be
that
honest.
this wilderness collects people, like collects lost survivors and stuff.
They said that it didn't want him to leave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They gave me
Unknown what
major
it
island
is.
vibes.
I like what they did with Sammy this episode, but I feel like Noah and Johnny bringing up, it's developing this mystery that's gonna not go anywhere, or like the end is not gonna be as sufficient. Like, who?
I think I am willing to wait for it. I think we should all bide our time and just wait for the big reveal, because I think we
Can I
know it's a
amend-
good reveal. People are finding the show more popular and excited about the next season. So it's got to be good.
We have to close out.
Can I amend my theory real quick?
Yeah, just real 10-second, very quickly.
I want to amend my theory that, unfortunately, as much as I may not want it, we're going to have like some crazy witchcraft tribe on the island, and I want to say that Adam is a representative of that tribe in the future because he knows what's happened in the forest, and he's like one of the people who live in like amongst real people, and he's going after them.
He's like
gonna bring them
midsommaring
back.
them. He's midsommaring them. Okay.
Got it.
That's
Okay.
interesting. I like that.
All right. Thank you, guys. We're like very much robust amongst the theories so far, and I suspect that there will be more to come in the episodes ahead. We're going to move to final scores for these episodes. Give a score 1 out of 10, and if you want a 1-sentence review of this episode. Johnny, why don't you go first?
It was fine. 5 out of 10.
Okay. David? 2 out of 10.
No.
Take your time, David.
9 out of
No.
10, but I didn't like it.
4 out of 10. It's fine for connection, but I want the pace to pick up.
Okay. Noah?
I'm going to say 5 out of 10, and my recommendation is to skip it and watch the recap at the beginning of the next episode instead.
Oof. Rough. Nick?
Which he already did.
I wish.
I'm also going to say 4 out of 10. Too much focus on Shauna, and this show can't afford to have filler when it only has 10 episodes.
All right. That pretty much averages out to like a 4. So pretty low grades.
I want to rewind. I do have one thing.
Yeah, what's that?
I do have one thing. Rewind. I think that Shauna miscategorized her husband and he's not cheating. And I think that's going to haunt her.
Okay.
I think that her husband may not be cheating.
Okay.
It's a wild guess. I got the sense that maybe she's incorrect, and then she has to figure out how to hide her sin.
He's just ring shopping with that lady at a hotel, right?
I mean, Noah, we've all
Could
been
be
there.
making a
huh?
fan.
We've all
I
done
don't know.
that.
I don't know. I'm not the writer, but I feel like it hasn't been proven to the audience that he's cheating yet,
Yeah.
and I think that's
Yeah.
a reason.
Okay.
Good theory. Well, I wrote it down. So thank you everyone for listening to us review episode 4 of Yellowjackets. Episode is called Bear Down. We can be found on Instagram and Twitter at The Spooky Screen. We'll be coming to TikTok and YouTube very, very, very shortly.
We say
again,
that.
And yes, and keep listening for more episodes of movies and TV shows released every Thursdays at
And-
7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
I feel like if you haven't liked this episode and liked the podcast, review it and share it.
Review it on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. We will forever be indebted to you. Hope you enjoyed listening to this episode. Thank you, as always, for the support. And this is The Spooky Screen signing off.
Stay spooky.